After an upset-filled week in college football last week, the College Football Playoff Committee released a brand new College Football Playoff rankings, and tonight I am here to give my reaction to it, along with kind of do a little scenarios. As we have 3 weeks left in the college football season, it's going to be a fight to the finish to get into one of the 4 spots to compete for the national championship. Now, to review their top 10, at number 1 they had Alabama. I had Alabama too in my playoff rankings. Alabama's my number 1 team ever since this whole process started. Number 2 they had Clemson. Number 3 they had Miami, Florida. Number 4 they had Oklahoma. Number 5 they had Wisconsin, and number 6 they had Auburn. Wisconsin, Auburn, sitting 5 and 6. They still control their own destiny. Number 7 they had Georgia, who is still in control of their own destiny. Number 8 they had Notre Dame. Number 9 they had Ohio State. Number 10 they had Penn State. Now those 3 teams, Notre Dame, Ohio State, and Penn State, they are not really in control of their own destiny. They just kind of need a 2007 situation to happen. And I could see a 2007 situation happening this year. I think this could be a year where we have 2 teams of the same conference in the playoff. I could also see if maybe Wisconsin was a 1-loss team, or if Wisconsin maybe slipped up against Michigan or Minnesota, then they slipped up again against Ohio State in the Big Ten Championship game. I could see how we get maybe 1 or even 2 2-loss teams in the college football playoff. So, I know there was some sparking debates I've seen throughout my Twitter timeline, but here's the one that I feel like a lot of people are going to be discussing for the next couple of days. Clemson versus Miami, who should be number 2? Honestly, I don't think it should really matter. Although, if you didn't see my playoff top 10 I did on Saturday night on my bigger board, I had Clemson number 2. And the reason why I put Clemson number 2 over Miami is just look at these interesting stats. Just think about this. Clemson versus Miami, who should be number 2? Clemson's most significant win this year is 14-6 over Auburn. Miami's most convincing win this year is 41-8 over Notre Dame. In fact, Miami's 2 convincing wins have been at home. They haven't really beaten a strong opponent on the road. And they had games against Florida State, Georgia Tech, and Syracuse that literally came down the last couple of minutes. They had to make some plays offensively within the last 2 minutes of that game. And they had to have a defensive turnover against 1-10 North Carolina. So Miami could easily be a 3 or 4 loss team right now. So I put Clemson 2 because I feel like they have more significant wins than Miami does. Because if you look at everything else, 47-20 over Louisville. Back when Louisville was in the top 25. 31-17 over Virginia Tech. I get that Miami beat Virginia Tech 20-10. But Clemson beat Virginia Tech on the road. Clemson beat North Carolina State 38-31 on the road. So Clemson, they have really 3 quality road wins. Miami doesn't really have a quality road win this year. So that was my synopsis of putting Clemson number 2 over Miami or even Oklahoma. Although if you didn't watch it, here's how my top 4 went. I had Alabama at 1. I had Clemson at 2. I had Oklahoma at 3 because Oklahoma has more convincing wins, more signature wins than Miami does. Oklahoma beat Ohio State on the road, who Ohio State is number 9 in the playoff rankings. They beat Oklahoma State on the road. They beat TCU. They held TCU to 20 points, which we were talking about how TCU's offense is underrated and how their defense gets undervalued. But Oklahoma beat TCU really convincingly, beat Ohio State convincingly. They beat Oklahoma State convincingly on the road. I know they had that 1 loss to Iowa State, but Iowa State also beat TCU. And Iowa State had a chance of beating Oklahoma State, but they just couldn't get the job done. So even though Miami's undefeated, there are 1-loss teams like Clemson and Oklahoma that still have more signature wins than Miami does. I mean, it's nothing against Miami fans. But I feel like it doesn't matter, because if Miami wins out, they're in. If Oklahoma wins out, they're in. If Clemson wins out, they're in. If Alabama wins out, they're in. If Auburn wins out, they have a case to be in. If Wisconsin wins out, I think they're I think they could be in. I think they definitely could be in. But I think if you're Wisconsin, you got to win out. And then you got to hope that Miami beats Clemson in the ACC title game. Because if Clemson wins out, and Miami's one loss is to that Clemson game in the ACC title game, if it's a 20-17 grudge match in the trenches, I think the committee could still favor Miami a little bit. But Wisconsin has some big games coming up. They beat Iowa as a ranked team pretty convincingly last week. They play Michigan this week, who is ranked in this top 25. And they will possibly play Ohio State in the Big Ten championship game. So Wisconsin could have a case too. I think this is coming down to the wire. I feel like this could cause an argument in the future where we could probably have 8 teams. So that was my why. That's why I put Clemson at 2 and Oklahoma at 3 and Miami at 4. On the outside looking in, I put Wisconsin at 5, Georgia at 6. I had Auburn at 7 because I just felt like all the one-loss teams should be ranked ahead of the 2-loss teams. But I don't think it matters because Auburn could play Georgia in the SEC championship game again for a second time and can beat them again. So I don't think it matters what the rankings are. I just think it matters how you finish right now at this point. Let's kind of run through a scenario real quick. I'm writing on my smaller board here. So let's just say that Alabama wins out. Let's say that Oklahoma wins out. Let's say that Clemson won the ACC title game. Who would be 4? Would it be Miami, depending on how the game was? Would it be Wisconsin if they go undefeated? Or let's just say Ohio State won the Big Ten championship. Let's just say that. Who could be number 4 in this scenario? Because Alabama was one out taking care of business. Oklahoma's taking care of business. Clemson takes care of business. Who did the committee put at number 4? Would it be Miami? Would it be Wisconsin? If Miami's one loss was to Clemson and Wisconsin's one loss was to Ohio State by 3 points. Let's just say in that scenario both the ACC title game and Big Ten championship game are close. Who will be number 4? Would they put in a 2-loss Ohio State team? Or would they have to really debate? Would they have to debate to the 59th minute of the hour between Miami or Wisconsin? Would that come down to that? But I want to run one more scenario, maybe a third one if I can think about it, but one more for sure. I'm going to do this really quickly. All right, let's just say that we have different conference champions this scenario. Let's just say that Oklahoma won the Big 12 championship. So they are in as a one-loss team for sure. That's a lock. I know it's going to be the wrong order, but you get the point. Oklahoma's a one-loss team. It's locked. Let's say Georgia won the SEC. So they would be in. But let's just say that Alabama beat Auburn in the Iron Bowl. So that means Alabama will play Georgia for the SEC championship. But let's just say Georgia won this. Let's say Georgia won. For this to make a legitimate scenario. So Georgia won the SEC championship in this scenario. Let's also say that Clemson won the ACC championship. Who is number 4? This is where we get really interesting. This is where it gets popping. Would it be Alabama? Would it be undefeated Wisconsin? Would it be one-loss Miami? In this possible scenario. Let's in that scenario, Miami's one loss is to Clemson. Let's say it's a 24-21 Game in the trenches. Clemson wins on a game-winning field goal with like 8 seconds left. Let's say that. Who would they put in at this point? Let's say Wisconsin went undefeated. All right, I'll present this real quick. Okay, so Oklahoma, one-loss team, won the Big 12 championship, they're in. Georgia won the SEC title in this scenario, they're in. Clemson won the ACC, they're in. Who's 4? Would they put in Alabama? Let's say Wisconsin went undefeated. Wisconsin went undefeated. They went 13-0, won the Big Ten championship game. Miami only lost to Clemson 24-21 with a last-minute field goal. Let's say Alabama lost in 2 overtimes, let's just say. Let's say Georgia won 27-24, double overtime. What happens in this scenario? Would they decide in the 59th minute to the hour? Who would they decide? That's the big question that everyone would be asking about in this scenario. So I just wanted to, I'm not giving my opinion on it. I feel like we should just wait till we get there. Because I feel like there could be possibly some top teams that go down before this moment. Because in rivalry weeks, anything can really happen. So I'm just going to leave it to you guys. Comment your thoughts down below. Like and subscribe to the channel. Share this video with your friends and family. I will see you next time. Have a really good night, everybody, or a good day, depending on when you're watching. I'll see you next time.